I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and you're all an inspiration to me, and you all inspire me in the work that I try to do, in the stand for life. So Garv Mila Ma'agiv. It's really encouraging to see such a big turnout, and so many young people here in front of us is certainly a sign of hope for the future. I know that in future generations, we will certainly overturn the horrific regime that has become part of Irish life. I know we'll do that. So thank you all for standing strong and for being a true sign of hope for the future. While it is devastating to see abortion numbers increase rapidly under new law and watch, and it amounts to a grotesque abuse of taxpayers' money being spent on abortion provision. The veil, however, at last is being lifted, and more people are starting to ask questions about what our so-called leaders in government are presiding over. People who were prepared to give the government the benefit of the doubt on lots of issues are now starting to demand answers, accountability and fairness. People who were prepared, as I say, to stand and see what happened and give people fair play are now starting to ask the hard questions and put pressure on, and that's only right. And this was demonstrated in a truly spectacular way recently with the results of the recent family and care referendums. Didn't government get their answer in those referendums? And no doubt we'll have the opportunity to give them their answer again, particularly on the life issue in the future. For too long, too few people were paying attention to what was actually going on. It is a very healthy thing in a democracy when voters start to become engaged and start looking for honest answers on issues like questioning the enormous sums of money being given or wasted on NGOs like the National Women's Council. The National Women's Council do not represent pro-life women like me or the many hundreds of pro-life women in front of us here today. The National Women's Council were shown to be hopelessly out of touch with the views and the concerns of women during the recent referendum campaign. Their stance on abortion is also far more radical than what the average voter supports. Yet, as a group, the National Women's Council wields an inordinate amount of power in determining government policy on issues like abortion. And they have easy access all of the time to ministers who they influence in the House behind us. The unchecked power of the National Women's Council needs to be brought to an end. And it is an absolute outrage that the most radical elements of the pro-abortion movement have been given free rein to do as they please without any proper oversight or, more importantly, accountability. The politicians and parties that have allowed this to happen need to be held to account for their actions when we vote on election day. If you were to say to me 2 years ago or even a year ago that positive policy changes focused on reducing abortion numbers could be secured in the short term, I would have questioned the chances of such changes happening anytime soon. But haven't times changed, and all for the better? Times are definitely changing. People have grown tired of the lies, the unfairness, and the unrestrained power of a tiny group of officials and senior politicians who slam the door on those who happen to hold a different viewpoint on issues such as abortion. Thankfully, people are starting to take note of how biased and one-sided things actually are. And my message to you all here today is to keep shining a spotlight on what is happening under the new abortion law. Keep unearthing the truth and share it with voters. Voters are entitled to know what is happening, and they are reliant on all of us here to inform them. If you were to rely on mainstream media, and indeed nobody really does nowadays, you'd be left thinking that the new abortion law was extremely restrictive, when in fact the number of abortions have increased dramatically from 2,879 in 2018 to over 10,000 last year. This is based on HSE replies to my parliamentary questions, which will be soon released in regard to the abortion figures for 2023. The reality of coercive abortion is another issue that needs far more focus and discussion. The horrifying story that came to light about a young woman in Ireland who was locked in a room and forced to take an abortion pill deserved a lot more media attention than it actually got. And it's highly likely, unfortunately, that many other similar incidents have occurred. From a parliamentary question that I submitted to the Minister for Health about the dangers of telemedicine abortion, I received a reply from the HSE that conceded that meeting the woman in person increases the likelihood of the provider identifying coercion or domestic abuse. Despite this admission, in another reckless move, the government pressed ahead with giving the green light to at-home telemedicine abortion. And I will continue to call that out as a pro-life TD. And when we look at these cases, one would really wonder about the so-called concern for the health and welfare of women. If they were really concerned, would they allow such horrific incidents to continue to occur in Ireland? Opinion polls conducted by Amoric Research show clearly that there is overwhelming public support for women being informed about alternative measures or alternative options prior to the abortion taking place. And it is a scandal that under the present regime, all roads lead to abortion. And what we have in government are cheerleaders to encourage abortion. With the millions spent on abortion provision, not one single cent of taxpayers' money goes on promoting positive alternatives. The only thing that will change this is electing more public representatives who are pro-life and who will all work together to reduce Ireland's rapidly increasing abortion rate. I am convinced that in addition to the people who voted no in 2018, there are lots of yes voters who now regret voting for repeal, given what has transpired. We need to reach these voters in the coming weeks and urge them to think pro-life before they vote in the upcoming elections in the next few weeks and indeed in the next few months. Never lose heart. Never become disillusioned. Great things will happen if we all work together and work hard for the pro-life cause. Voters are listening and paying attention. The government cannot dupe people to the same extent that they did in the past. And don't pass on the opportunity to make a difference in the coming weeks and indeed in the coming months. Remind all of your friends and family to think pro-life before they vote. Thanks to you all for coming here today and for supporting me in my work. And thanks for listening. And please continue your great work. Garibh Míle Maith Agaibh.